Emilio Aguinaldo. One way to remember the first president of the Philippines First Republic is to look at the 5 peso coin. General Emilio Aguinaldo's face used to grace the 5 peso bill. The back of the bill shows him holding the Philippine flag at the celebration of the Philippine Independence Day. His achievement, contribution, and legacies. First President of the First Republic, Malolo Republic, signed the Pact of Biak na Batu, creating a truce between the Spanish and Philippine revolutionaries. Known as the President of the Revolutionary Government, led the Philippines in the Spanish-Philippine War and the American-Philippine War. Youngest president taking office at age 28. Longest lived president passing away at 94. Manuel L. Quezon. His achievement, contribution, and legacy. First Senate President, the President of the Philippines. First President elected through a national election. First President under the Commonwealth. Created National Council of Education. Initiated women's suffrage in the Philippines during the Commonwealth. Approved Tagalog or Filipino as the national language of the Philippines. Appears on the 20 peso bill. Jose P. Laurel. Jose P. Laurel's presidency is controversial. He was officially the government's caretaker during the Japanese occupation of the World War II. Criticized as a traitor by some, his indictment for treason was superseded later by an amnesty proclamation in 1948. His achievements, contribution, and legacies. Since the early 1960s, Laurel considered a legitimate president of the Philippines. Organized Kali-Bapi, Kapisanan sa Paglilingkod sa Bagong Pilipinas, or Association for Service to the New Philippines, a provisional government during Japanese occupation. Declared martial law and war between the Philippines and the U.S. or United Kingdom in 1944. With his family, established the Lyceum of the Philippines. Sergio Osmeña. Sergio Osmeña was the second president of the Commonwealth. During his presidency, the Philippines joined the International Monetary Fund. His achievement, contribution, and notable. Became president at 65, making him the oldest person to hold office. First Visayan to become president. Joined with the U.S. General Douglas MacArthur in Leyte on October 20, 1944 to begin restoration of the Philippines. Freedom after Japanese occupation. Philippine National Bank was rehabilitated and the country joined the International Monetary Fund during his presidency. Bill Trade Act was approved by U.S. Congress during his presidency. Appears on the 50 peso bill. Manuel Rojas. Manuel Rojas was the 5th president of the Philippines. His achievement, contribution, and notable, and aggregated as the first president of the new republic after World War II. Reconstruction from war damage and life without foreign rule began during his presidency. Under his term, the Philippine Rehabilitation Act and Philippines Trade Act laws were accepted by Congress. Appears on the 100 peso bill. Elpidio Quirino. His achievement, contribution, and notable. Hukbalahap guerrilla movement active during his presidency. Created Social Security Commission. Created Integrity Board to monitor graft and corruption. Quezon City became capital of the Philippines in 1948. Ramon Magsaysay. His contribution, achievement, and notable. Hukbalahap movement quelled during his presidency. Chairman of the Committee on Guerrilla Affairs. First president sworn into office wearing Barong Tagalog during inauguration. Presidency referred to as the Philippine Golden Years for its lack of corruption. Philippines was ranked second in Asia's clean and well-governed countries during his presidency. Established National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration, among other agrarian reforms. Carlos P. Garcia. His contribution, achievement, and notable. Known for Filipino First policy, which favored Filipino business over foreign investors. Established the austerity program focusing on Filipino trade and commerce. Known as the Prince of Visayan poet and the Bard from Bohol. Cultural art was revived during his term. Was the first president to have his remains buried at the libingan ng mga bayani. Diosdado Macapagal. His achievement, contribution, and notable. Established the first land reform law, allowing for the purchase of private farmland to be distributed in inexpensive small lots to the landless. Placed the Philippine peso on the currency exchange market. Declared June 12, 1898 to be Philippines Independence Day. Signed the minimum wage law. Created the Philippine Veterans Bank. Currently on the 200 peso bill. Ferdinand Marcos. His achievement, contribution, and notable. First president to win a second term. Before and during his first term, the Philippines was the second largest economy in Asia, behind only Japan. Declared martial law on September 22, 1972. Increased the size of Philippine military and armed forces. By 1986, the Philippines was one of the most indebted country in Asia. Built more schools, roads, bridges, hospitals, and other infrastructure than all former presidents combined. Corazon Aquino. Her achievement, contribution, and notable. First woman to be president of the Philippines or any Asian country. Restored democracy. Abolished the 1973 Marcos Constitution and ushered in the new Constitution of the Philippines. Reorganized the structure of the executive branch of government. Signed the Family Code of 1987, a major civil law reform, and 1191 Local Government Code, which reorganized the structure of the executive branch of government. Initiated charitable and social activity helping the poor and the needy. Named Woman of the Year in 1986 by Time magazine. On the new 500 peso bill together with her husband Benigno Aquino. Received honors and awards including 100 Women Who Shaped World History, 20 Most Influential Asian of the 20th Century, 65 Great Asian Heroes, G. William Fulbright Prize for International Understanding, Fidel V. Ramos. His achievement, contribution, and notable. Oversaw Philippine economic growth. presided over celebrations of Philippine independence centennial in 1998, received British knighthood from the United Kingdom by Queen Elizabeth II, hosted the 4th Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation Leaders Summit in the Philippines in 1996. Philippine Stock Exchange became an international favorite during his presidency. Death penalty reinstated while he was in office. Signed peace agreement with the rebel Moro National Liberation Front. Joseph Estrada, known as Arab Joseph Estrada, was the first president who had been a famous film actor. His presidency was controversial. During his years in the office, economic growth was slow and he faced impeachment proceeding. He was ousted from the presidency in 2001. He was later convicted of stealing from the government but was pardoned. He ran unsuccessfully for president in 2010. His achievement, contribution, and notable. During his presidency, Moro Islamic Liberation Front headquarters and camp were captured. Joined other leaders and politicians to try to amend the 1987 Constitution, cited as one of the 3 outstanding senators in 1989. Among the Magnificent 12 who voted to terminate the agreement that allows for U.S. control of Clark Air Base and Subic Naval Base. Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Gloria Macapagal Arroyo was the 14th President of the Philippines. The Oakwood Mutiny occurred during her term. Arroyo oversaw, but there was also controversy, road and infrastructure improvements, and higher economic growth than President before her. Her achievement, contribution, and notable. Second female president of the country. First and only female vice president of the Philippines so far. First president to take oath outside Luzon. Former economics professor at the Ateneo de Manila University, where currently President Benigno III was one of her students. Ex-classmate of former U.S. President Bill Clinton at Georgetown University's Ford School of Foreign Service, where she maintains list status. Oversaw her economic growth than the past 3 presidents before her. Peso became the best performing currency of the year in Asia in 2007. IVAT law was implemented under her terms. He is the first president who is bachelor. He is unmarried and has no children. His achievement, contribution, and legacy. Initiated K-12 education in the Philippines. In 2013, the Philippines win in first investment grade credit rating Benigno Simeon Aquino III. Benigno Aquino III was sworn into office as the 15th President of the Philippines. He joined the House of Representatives and the Senate before his presidency. From Fitch Ratings, similar upgrades from other credit rating agency Moody's and Standard & Poor's follow later that year. Changed the Philippines' reputation as the sick man of Asia to brightest spot in Asia. Free contraceptives to poor couples and teach sex education in school. Oversaw higher economic growth than his predecessors. Signed a landmark law mandating the state provide. Filed a suit at UN-linked International Arbitration Tribunal in The Hague to invalidate China's claim of Philippines. Claim territory. Invalidate China's claims of Philippine claim territories in the West Philippine Sea. Initiated unprecedented scale of military upgrade. He improved the armed forces' operational condition by introducing new and used assets at a rate that far outpaced previous presidents. Rodrigo Rua Duterte. Rodrigo Duterte, former mayor of Davao, ascended to the presidency through a populist movement. His main campaign slogan was "Change is coming" and vowed to fight or eradicate criminality and drugs within 3 to 6 months. His achievement, contribution, and significant event. The Permanent Court of Arbitration awarded a landmark victory to the Philippines. It was won on almost all of its arguments against China, instigated the foreign policy shift from being a pro-US ally to a more dependent stance. Bloody war on drugs. He lived up to his promises of a relentless anti-drug campaign, institute a tax reform law, a revenue-generating measure to fund the administration's infrastructure program, health, education, and social services programs. Proposed bill infrastructure plan which seeks to accelerate infrastructure spending and develop industries that will yield robust growth, create jobs, and improve the lives of Filipinos. Environmental policies initiated a rehabilitation on Boracay, jumpstart effort to clean Manila Bay and Laguna Lake, and got Canada to take back its illegal garbage stranded in the Philippines.